Hey everybody, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me again. I hope you enjoyed the last video. I'm making these all as a series and then uploading them as they in a sequence. So hopefully I did get back to your comments and stuff. If you enjoy this kind of video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe just so we can make some more stuff, because I'd love to get into more 40k content in time, even though this is just like a combined sort of way for me to enjoy two hobbies, video editing and painting and stuff. So if you do enjoy this, subscribe and let me know what you'd like to see and what kind of videos you want more info on. But for now, I'm just going to continue with the build with me series of the Blood Angels Combat Patrol. I've got some other stuff that I'll be bringing out at some point as well, but hopefully we'll just work on with this now. So you can see at the end of the last video I showed you my speed building, I guess. No, not really, a speed building of the impeller tank from the Combat Patrol box, and since then I have gone over and painted the first coat of Mephiston Red on it. So just give you a good look at it. I didn't paint the bottom. I don't really think there's much point with the way I'm sticking it down, but you can see I've painted part of the inside. I'm going to try and do as much of the inside as I can, not really down in here, because it's not really decorated with anything, so it's just the parts that are sort of embellished with something like the back and stuff. So I just wanted to show you what this turns out like. This took 3 coats to get even and nice. 3 different coats of Mephiston Red in all to get it looking good. It might not take you that many, but I just wanted to show you just how much you might have to put into getting like an even coat of paint on something. You will notice though that I made some mistakes and ran over the edges and stuff. I was quite glad that I did that, because I'll show you that if you do that with your model, it won't be the end of the world and that we can fix that sort of thing. So if you are new to painting, we'll probably look at, maybe not in this video, but in another video, how you can fix stuff like this. And it's really, really simple, but we will get to that and we will show you. So I'm gonna put this to the side and show you, when I finished last time, I went on to build, or partly build, most of the Combat Patrol minis. In part anyway. I was saying before that I don't build them completely, so you can see that I built the Librarian without his legs inside the coat, so I can paint his legs separately and get them looking good before I attach them. There's one of my Primaris Intercessors. Here is, these don't stand up on their own. Ooh, there is an Aggressor, and we just need one of the Inceptors, and there's one of each of the different types of model that we have in this set. So today I will be showing you how to get from this to this with the Mini. I thought I would do this because it would be the easiest example for me to show you on camera without having to worry about my awful focus skills. So how we can get from this to this, and then what you do after that. So I'm going to show you how to paint a Mini, not necessarily carefully, but in a way that allows you to do a good job with the rest of the Mini. So we'll start with any one of these, really. We'll start with any one of these and sort of move on through the process of getting that first layer of paint on, and then after that we'll see about moving on to get something else. For today's work, video, painting, whatever, you're going to need yourself some sort of palette, whether or not that's just a piece of old plastic, a piece of old metal, or an actual palette. Mine is an actual palette, but it sucks. I need to buy some paint stripper to get rid of some of the old stuff I was using. I used some green and some silver and some white and stuff on my old Salamander Terminators. You'll see them another day, but it's still covered in old layers of paint from before. But at the minute I'm using the center just for the Mephiston Red because I need so much of it for this set. So at the minute this is okay. I will clean this at some point. Please forgive me for using a palette like this in a video, but I just wanted to show you the kind of stuff you would need if you're painting as a beginner. These sorts of palettes are not very expensive. You can get them for about £5, but £5 is £5 and you see the kind of quality you get. I am looking to get a wet palette so that I don't get a lot of time to paint a whole load of stuff in one go, so I'm trying to get a wet palette so that I can jump in and out of painting and not have to worry about my paint drying on the palette and being useless. I don't like wasting my paints either, even though you get an awful lot out of Citadel paints, to be fair. But if you are a beginner and you're wondering what kind of palette to get, I'd probably say a wet palette, because you can come in and out of using them and you can just shut it off you go. Wet palette is like, I think it has like a sponge inside it, so you have your layer of paint on the top, you can add your water to thin it out, and then you can use the layers, and whenever you aren't using it, you can just shut it and it stays in the current state that it is, and you don't have to worry about it drying out whenever you're going to give your dog a bath or whatever. You can also see there that I have some protective paper down. I'm not going to be fancy and show you a brand new sheet of clean paper or like a protective cover or anything, because all I really believe you need is something like this to protect, you know, your working area. This is my desk where I do all my other work, so I don't want to damage it and I don't want to cover it in paint and ruin the effect. I also make sure to have a jar where I can clean my brushes. This one is full of old kind of crappy brushes that I don't treat well. They are from a company that's not, I guess it's not Citadel, it's not Games Workshop, so the bristles aren't very good at staying together, and the brushes are a little bit rougher, but I still do use them for larger coats or larger areas like I did on the tank. So these brushes, they're good for dry brushing too if you're into that, but for larger areas and stuff, these brushes are good. But I just use them as rough brushes, and I use this one as well for stirring up drier pots of paint, because it's not inherited, but I was given a lot of my original paints by someone else and they needed to be stirred up a bit, so I use that brush for it too. As well as that, today we will be using Mephiston Red. Give me that focus, come on. I'll put it here. Mephiston Red as the base coat over the top of the undercoat, obviously. I'm using the basic Games Workshop recommended paint recipe for this. I'm not doing anything creative, I'm not being different, I'm not trying to be special, I'm just using, surely if you are completely new to painting, how to paint a mini using the prescribed recipes and everything like that, because it can be daunting trying to figure out how the paints work with one another and how they complement one another and how the layering works if you haven't used a few Games Workshop paint recipes, at least to try and figure out how it all goes together. So I'm just doing what you should do as a beginner, following the Games Workshop recipe, because then you can start to learn how the paints work and how they complement each other on the layering. So that's the base layer recommended for Blood Angels by Games Workshop. We will also be using Agrax Earthshade, which is another recommended, what's part of the recipe again. It's the shade layer. You'll see how they work soon. I'll show you how shade layers work whenever we're getting into that. Then we have Evil Sun's Scarlet, which is the third layer that you put on top of the shade. It's honestly, this is really, really good. If you are new to painting, you will be shocked exactly how much of an effect that these layers of paint work with one another. If you are new to 40k and you've never painted a mini before, and you're wondering why you have to put 4 coats on, trust me, it might seem silly, but buy all 4 of the recommended paints, because once you see it start to work, even if you're not very good like me, you'll see a profound sort of just coming together of all these shades and colors and stuff. Because the reason I say you might find it a bit silly is obviously we've got 2 reds here. Red for Blood Angels kind of makes sense, obviously, because you've got Blood Angels here, this is what they look like, they're red. But the final shade is Fire Dragon Bright, which is orange. Might seem a bit silly. This is going on the battle plate, this is going on the armor, on the tank, on the edges of all the Space Marine plates. You might think this is weird, but trust me, the orange works as part of the color scheme. You might not believe me, but if you're brand new, obviously people who paint all the time will think I'm stupid for saying this, but as a beginner, it will honestly come as quite a shock to you just how much of an effect that the 4 stark different sorts of shades have on one another. When it comes to brushes, I use these 3 mainly because they're the three Citadel brushes I can afford at the minute. I went to buy a set of Citadel brushes and they are quite expensive, but they're worth it because these ones stay together. The tips stay really, really nice and prim and proper. I'll try and zoom in on them against the wall there. I need to clean them just with a little bit of toothpaste. I'll show you, if you wanted how to clean your brushes video, I'll show you that as well. But in terms of how to paint, I recommend getting a couple of Citadel brushes. It's a very, very thin one, a medium one, and a slightly thicker one. Realistically, as a beginner, that's all you're going to need. Just ignore the names. Again, as a beginner, ignore the names. Just go with what it looks like: extremely thin, medium, and slightly thicker. These are the ones you're going to need for painting as a beginner. It means you won't have to spend too much, maybe about £15 if you're in the UK, rather than hundreds as you could spend on brushes. You'll see when you go on the Games Workshop website. But those are my brushes, and hopefully if you get similar ones you should be able to do exactly what I do with minimal not minimal effort, but minimal complication. So paint along with me with the same kind of brushes, and hopefully we'll get the similar sort of effect. You remember earlier when I said that I would be working with these sorts of mistakes and stuff here, that I would try and show you a little trick for covering them over and making them, you know, undercoating them again so they look okay. But realistically, there's not really a trick, it's just applying more undercoat over the black areas that you want to repaint with a different color. So I'm going to go ahead with all the models here that I've either made mistakes with in cutting, well, not made mistakes with in cutting, but left the little shear marks. I'll paint over them again, and then look at the areas where I've made mistakes and the shear marks on this, and paint over them again with an undercoat. Now that those sort of touch-ups are done and they're black all over, I'm going to start with the Mephiston Red, just like I did with the tank.
Weeks later.
Yeah, okay, so bit of a confession to make. I filmed this video over a series of weeks. I kind of got lost track of what I was doing, where I was going.
Stop! A mockery of my holy vessel walks the battlefield.
Hello viewers, welcome to my painting of miniature things.
Keep going.
This bit is red because it's like blood. And this bit is black like my heart.
Good stuff. Stick to makeup.
What?
Stick to makeup. You're better at that.
I have performed the cleansing.
Yeah, but I completely lost track of what I was doing, my sort of aims and stuff, but I didn't want to subject you all either to a time lapse of me completely painting these either, because it's a base coat and it's relatively boring. So I'm just going to give you some of the results that I've got from these initial base coats. I'm going to do each, you know, the three aggressors differently, the few intercessors a little bit differently, and the inceptors differently from one another. So here's what the base coat looks like on an aggressor after finishing that off. Here's an intercessor. The intercessors are fairly standard, they're just kind of the new normal. And then these two inceptors They're not massively different, but you can see there's a few small differences just for the sake of them being, you know, making them a little more personal, as if they've painted their armor themselves. So that's what most of them look like with their base coat on. And then on top of that, I have done the impeller a little bit more. I've done the Agrax Earthshade shading coat and a little bit of metallic effect on the inside, on the floor, and on the gun ports, as if they've been scraped, and then some of the gun ports on the side, and then the grav impeller mounts as well have been done. I'm really happy with how most of this has turned out, and I'm excited to get on with a little metal effect on those as well, just by dry brushing. I'll show you that later on in another video. I'm not, well, yeah, dry brushing with these, but I don't generally dry brush unless it is for metal, but I'll show you those in another video. But yeah, for now, the end of this will probably not correlate with the rest of the video because I filmed the outro weeks ago just to save time. So I'm going to move on now and paint the Agrax Earthshade on my Space Marines, and maybe move on to do the next layer of red on the tank. So yeah, sorry for leaving such an awkward gap, but be right back on track in no time. So hopefully today I showed you quite a lot all in one go on how to get started as a beginner. I didn't want to be too quick, I didn't want to be too slow, so hopefully that was something that was nice and in the middle. Shows you how to just get in and around the Mini, get the first few layers of paint on it, and how that should sort of turn out as you go. Because I remember when I first did it, there were obviously little tutorials and stuff on how to paint, but it all felt like, oh, this is very easy. But so trying to give you a beginner's perspective through my own beginner's perspective. So if you did enjoy the way I did that, please like and subscribe, because there'll be more like this. And obviously if you want to get involved with discussion on how to paint and talking to me about things I should do if you're a more advanced painter, which you most likely are, do leave comments, get in touch, whatever. I'm as eager to learn as I'm expecting my viewers to be, so get in touch to let me know things that you think I should do, things that can slowly improve my skills as well. But overall, thank you so much for watching again. It's really nice to know that somebody will be watching this, because the intention for me is just to enjoy painting and make some videos out of it. So do let me know that you're there, and let me know what you think of my painting, and hopefully I will see you again next week with the third part. Thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.